When I was 8 months pregnant, my husband asked me to care for his childhood sweetheart who had suffered a miscarriage. During her recovery, she spilled chicken soup on her thigh and claimed I had deliberately scalded her. My husband had his men tie me up and stuff me into an oversized industrial steamer, determined to make me feel the pain of being scalded myself. You think you can bully Jessica just because you're pregnant? I'll make sure you learn your lesson today. I pleaded in the searing heat, begging him to spare me for the sake of our child's safety. He sneered. I looked it up. A little stress during pregnancy can make the baby stronger. Stop pretending to be pathetic. I won't divorce you, but you'll repay Jessica's suffering 1,000-fold. With that, he turned the temperature up to maximum. Fear triggered contractions, and a baby's cry came from beneath me. My child was born. I desperately cried for help, but he ignored me, even ordering someone to get the chain used for locking doors and bind the industrial steamer. No one is to let her out without my command. That evening, while feeding Jessica, he didn't forget to question, hasn't Sarah admitted her mistake yet? If she keeps being stubborn like this, who will take care of Jessica's recovery? Go tell her I'm giving her a chance. As long as she kneels and begs Jessica's forgiveness and prepares a week's worth of meals for Jessica, I'll let her go to the hospital to give birth. The subordinates' faces were deathly pale, none dared to answer. Mr. Miller, your wife, she seems unable to hold on. She hasn't cried out for an hour, and she doesn't respond when we call her. What are you afraid of? I know her better than any of you. She's best at pretending. She must have realized that trying to trick me with the child isn't working, so now she's faking death. If I don't make her suffer thoroughly, she'll keep bullying my Jessica like this. A subordinate wiped his sweat, his face pale. But we really heard a baby crying inside just now, though only for a few seconds before it stopped. That must be her faking it too. The subordinate tried to say more. Robert waved his hand, cutting him off impatiently. Enough. The smart appliances have safety shut-off mechanisms. They'll automatically turn off if someone is detected inside. It's just steaming her for a bit. She's not that fragile. The subordinate didn't dare speak and left with a pale face. Robert had dinner brought in and sent to the master bedroom. In the master bedroom I shared with Robert, Jessica was wearing my pajamas, leaning against the headboard, playing on her phone and occasionally letting out sweet smiles. Jessica, what are you looking at? So happy? Robert's mood brightened considerably seeing she wasn't crying anymore. He walked over, cupped the back of her head, and fed her a mouthful of chicken soup. Take good care of yourself, and Robert will be at ease. Jessica smiled guiltily, then threw herself into his arms, tears streaming down. My friend feels sorry for me and told me to leave you. But when I think of how good you used to be to me, I can't bear to, so I was just silly smiling. Robert, it's all my fault for not being able to control my feelings for you. That time when you were drugged, I wanted to give myself to you and then leave alone with the baby, never bothering your happiness again, but... She choked up. But the baby is gone. If I lose you too, I really won't be able to live. I know I'm selfish, boo-hoo. So I accept any punishment Sarah gives me. It only hurt a little when she scalded me. Even if she stabbed me with a knife, I'd be willing. As long as you don't make me leave you. These words broke Robert's heart. He hugged her, gently blowing on the fingernail-sized burn on her thigh. Jessica, you are too kind. It's precisely because you love me so humbly that Sarah, that vicious woman, dares to treat you like this. You have no idea how my heart shattered WHE. And I saw you cry. You gave your all for me, saving me time and time again. You are my benefactor and the one I love. I won't allow anyone to bully you. Not even Sarah, who is carrying my child and is my wife, has the right to lay a finger on you. A flicker of unnaturalness crossed Jessica's face. Then her face flushed, and she said coyly, Robert, I actually have more burns than just this. There are other burns I feel embarrassed to show a doctor. Robert's eyes immediately filled with desire. He pushed her down onto the bed. Then let Robert take a look himself and see if Jessica is all flushed and tender now. Jessica wore the matching pajamas Robert had personally designed for me for our wedding, and made love with my husband on the bedding I had carefully chosen. In the throes of passion, Robert grabbed her leg, and Jessica's leg knocked over the photo I kept on the bedside table. It was a picture taken by a passerby when Robert and I first got our marriage license, a witness to our happiness. The glass split him and me into two pieces. A broken mirror can't be mended, yet just a few months ago, I had still fantasized that if I could have the baby, there might be a sliver of a chance Robert would come back to me and the child. There was no possibility now, because I was dead. It turns out, even as a ghost, the heart still aches. Hearing Jessica on the bed cooing about wanting to have another baby for Robert, the pain in my heart intensified. Robert was right, in such a painful environment, my child was born incredibly quickly. I even wished he could have stayed in my belly a little longer, just a little longer, so his mother could bear the agony of the heat for him and give him a chance at life. But my child was too good, he was born in just a few minutes. I desperately pushed the industrial steamer open a crack, begging the people standing outside, "I've had the baby. He's not crying or shouting, and his breathing is stopping. Please have mercy, even if you just saved my child and sent him to the hospital." They looked at me in horror, just as they were reaching to turn off the switch. Then Jessica's cries came from outside the company kitchen. "Robert, how could she use the child's life to try and gain your sympathy? Does she know that her bringing it up like that could actually make it come true? She's so lucky to have gotten pregnant with your child and even delivered successfully, yet she doesn't cherish it at all and even curses her own baby. She knows how much I want a child. Is she deliberately saying this to me, trying to rub salt in my wounds?" Seeing Jessica crying in his arms, Robert's rage grew even stronger. "It seems my punishment wasn't harsh enough. You still have the strength to use the child to provoke Jessica. Get me that chain and bind the industrial steamer. Don't let her have any chance to shout out." The subordinates didn't dare move, which angered Robert enough that he reached out and bound the industrial steamer himself, sealing it completely. During this, he vaguely heard the sound of a baby crying inside, like a kitten, and for a moment, Robert hesitated and struggled. But then Jessica said, "Sarah is still so good at mimicking voices. It reminds me, that night was clearly my first time with Robert." The next day, she insisted on pretending to be me by pinching her voice, and lied to you that it was her. Robert remembered something, and the disgust in his eyes was almost uncontrollable. "All of you, get out. So you don't get tricked by that bitch Sarah again and let her out. When Jessica's burns stop hurting, that's when I'll personally let her out." He drove all the employees away, leaving me, still groaning, locked inside the scorching industrial steamer, and closed the company kitchen door. My child cried for only a few moments, then went limp in my arms, little by little, his skin losing its elasticity. I cried hysterically, my body gradually decaying and falling into the water. At that moment, Robert, wanting to compensate Jessica for the 6 months she had been pregnant alone away from him, said he would make it up to her with a grand proposal. Even without a marriage certificate, he would give her the honor of being his wife. While my body was bloody and mutilated, he booked the top 10 trending online topics and the large projection screens in all cities, continuously displaying declarations of love for Jessica. As I lost my breath, during a live stream with countless influencers, he scattered rose petals over an entire city from a helicopter, raining down from the sky to propose to Jessica. And now, I watched them spend their sweet wedding night on what was once my wedding bed. Robert dotingly pulled her into his arms. "Sorry, Jessica. Sarah lied to me back then, saying she had offered herself to save me when I was drugged. Although I only married her out of responsibility, we are married now. I can't just abandon her like that. But don't worry, ultimately, she owes you too much. I'm making her suffer thoroughly this time, and she'll be well behaved from now on and won't disturb our lives together anymore. You recover well and have another child. We'll be a family of 3, and then there's Sarah and her child, 5 of us living together peacefully." Jessica's eyes flashed with a hint of shock. "What? Don't worry, even though Sarah and I are married, publicly I'm still yours. Just think of her as a maid to help with cleaning and cooking, and our child will have a playmate." Hearing this, a hint of unnaturalness and viciousness flickered in Jessica's eyes. She forced a smile. "Okay, whatever you say. I'll get along well with her." I just found it ridiculous. After all this, he still wouldn't let me go. He even thought I would continue to tolerate his affair with Jessica, degrading myself to the point of being willing to be their maid. I took a deep breath, watching my tears turn into air. I knew why he was so certain that I'd leave, no matter how much he hurt me. It was because I had always silently endured. A month ago, Robert Miller's childhood sweetheart, Jessica, suddenly collapsed at my doorstep. I quickly took her to the hospital, but to my surprise, when she woke up, she cried to Robert Miller, claiming I had pushed her and caused her to lose the baby. I quickly explained that I didn't do it, that I had just taken her to the hospital. Robert Miller just looked at me coldly. Seeing that he didn't believe me, I took out my medical report to show him that the baby was already gone before I even met her. But as soon as Jessica cried, Robert Miller slapped me to the ground. "Enough. You're going too far. Jessica has already said she forgives you, why won't you admit your mistake?" He had his bodyguard take me home and confine me to reflect. I naively thought that when I saw him again, he would be calmer and perhaps listen to my explanation. But after 2 weeks of confinement, when I saw him again, his eyes held only the hatred one would have for an enemy. At that time, I didn't know why things had turned out this way. Holding on to a sliver of hope, I thought perhaps after the baby was born, he would have a change of heart. Now, I finally knew why. It was because of that incident a year ago. A year ago, Robert Miller's company faced a major crisis, almost on the verge of bankruptcy. And at that very moment, Jessica silently took all the money and left him. Robert Miller suffered a double blow, became completely dejected, and locked himself in his room every day. I was desperate, running around trying to secure deals and find clients. I drank myself senseless day after day until I finally landed a big deal that could bring the company back from the brink. I rushed to Robert Miller's house and knelt, begging him to remember his former ambition and give himself another chance, not to give up. He was moved by my words and went with me to negotiate the deal. However, that night, the mistress brought by the boss we were negotiating with took a liking to Robert Miller. She was willing to go to any lengths to spend a night with him and secretly gave him some kind of drug. While worried about the deal being cancelled if the boss found out, I also felt sorry for Robert Miller's restless and uncomfortable state. I lied, claiming Robert Miller and I were a loving couple, and took him to a hotel room. He clung to me all the way to the bed, and we spent the night together. When I woke up, afraid that he wouldn't be able to accept that his business partner had become his bedmate, afraid that he would distance himself from me, I fled in a panic. It wasn't until 3 months later that I found out I was pregnant. Shyly and nervously, I confessed everything to Robert Miller. He looked at me with complicated emotions, silent for a long time, so long that I thought he didn't want to take responsibility. Then he suddenly let out a sigh of relief and smiled, holding me in his arms. "Sarah, maybe you are an angel sent by God to save me and help me start a new life." I cried and laughed, laughed and cried. I cried because I was so pathetic, and laughed because I was so tragic. It turned out that the night I spent with him had been twisted by Jessica during my 2 weeks of confinement. Jessica had claimed that she was the one who had given herself to Robert Miller and then left pregnant, and that I was the bad woman who had claimed the illegitimate child and impersonated her. No wonder Robert Miller looked at me with such disgust. "Boss, it's been a whole day and night, someone is really going to die like this," a subordinate said nervously. Maybe it's already happened." "What nonsense are you talking about? It's just being locked inside for one night, what could happen?" Robert Miller still spoke in that tone. "The appliances in the company kitchen are high-tech, with smart safety features to prevent accidents. They must have shut off the heat when they detected someone inside. I'm just trying to scare her." The subordinate's face was pale, and he swallowed. But, the heat is still on." "Enough. Did Sarah send you to lie to me again?" He angrily slammed the dishes/cutlery down. "If you keep pleading for her, I'll keep her locked up for 2 more days." The subordinate didn't dare speak anymore. Jessica spoke softly. "Why don't we just forget about it? If she's locked up any longer, Sarah will definitely hate me. What if she then—" "I'm not saying Sarah will hurt me or anything, after all, it's my fault. It's only right that Sarah hates me and wants to take her anger out on me." Seeing that she was about to cry again, Robert Miller hugged her. "Jessica, Sarah has scared you like this. She deserves to be punished. You are the one I love, and my benefactor. I won't allow anyone to bully you." I slowly shook my head. "Never again, Robert Miller. I will never hurt the one you love again." "You got your wish." Robert Miller felt inexplicably irritated in his heart. Looking at the food on the table, he grew more and more disgusted. He scooped a bowl of soup for Jessica, and Jessica, imitating him, fed him soup mouth to mouth. He enjoyed Jessica's shy and bold provocation, but the irritation and unease in his heart intensified. "This soup tastes terrible." He blamed his frustration on the food. "If the chef can't cook, they can leave. It's not even as good as what that woman Sarah makes." Ignoring Jessica's displeased expression, he continued to himself, "Right, Jessica needs to recover. We still need to let Sarah out to make you nutritious meals. Go tell Sarah I'm giving her a chance. As long as she kneels and apologizes to Jessica, I'll forgive her." Thinking about how I was about to give birth, his expression softened. "Isn't she always bringing up the child? Tell her to prepare a week's worth of meals for Jessica, and I'll arrange for a delivery room so she can give birth peacefully." The subordinates exchanged glances, stammering and afraid to speak. "What are you waiting for?" he said impatiently. Sir, you should go look in the company kitchen." They wiped the sweat from their foreheads, their faces full of terror. Inside the industrial steamer, it's full of bloody water. Robert Miller's face paled with panic, but soon he laughed softly. It's nothing, she's showing signs of labor, her water probably broke. Perfect, this is a good opportunity for her to properly apologize to Jessica, and then I'll send her to the hospital to give birth. Your wife, she's dead. A subordinate shivered. Yesterday afternoon, your wife stopped making any sounds. And from inside the industrial steamer, there was the smell of cooked meat. What? Robert Miller suddenly stood up, knocking over the table and chairs, sending things crashing to the floor. Are you kidding me? His face was ashen. I personally selected these appliances. They were all carefully designed to prevent accidents. When I left, I clearly heard the power cut off. How could anything happen? You must be in league with her, trying to trick and scare me, right? He walked out with a cold laugh. I want to see with my own eyes what tricks she's trying to pull this time. When he arrived at the company kitchen, the employees were standing outside the locked door, pale and terrified, not daring to move. Aren't you working? What are you gathered here for? He had someone open the door and walked inside. A pungent, strange smell filled the entire room. He furrowed his brow. What is this smell? Did your company kitchen staff not clean properly? No one dared to speak. Everyone looked in horror at the tall, locked industrial steamer. My chest ached. Even without seeing the horrific sight inside, the agony of death made it impossible for me to breathe. I whimpered and walked over, wanting to see my poor child. Robert Miller's face was grim, his expression serious as he approached the industrial steamer and reached out to touch it. He pulled his hand back after just one touch. TCH. Robert Miller actually laughed. I knew Sarah couldn't change her ways, she's still lying and trying to deceive people. This pot is cold. I told you it has safety shut-off mechanisms, the power must have automatically cut off long ago. He knocked on the industrial steamer and said coldly, Sarah, do you know you were wrong? I gave a bitter smile. How could I possibly answer? Robert Miller's face grew darker and darker. With trembling hands, he yanked open the industrial steamer. Inside was something wrapped in a white cloth, its shape unclear. He stared blankly at the object covered by the white cloth, faintly able to see the bloody water beneath. After a long, long time, he seemed to gather his courage and reached out to lift the white cloth. Ah! Jessica's scream came from the company kitchen entrance. How could Sarah come up with such a disgusting way to scare people? She pinched her nose and said, this is clearly expired pork. It's so scary. You scared me to death. Robert Miller immediately pulled her into his arms. His anger was rekindled. He kicked over the industrial steamer, and it rolled into the slop bin. Using pork to scare people, are you? All you do is lie, and now you're even trying to play tricks? I will absolutely not spare you. It's because I was too soft on you that you thought you could get away with tricking me again and again. This time I won't tolerate you anymore. Call the police. Say Sarah stole company secrets and caused major losses to the company. His eyes were grim. Since locking you in the industrial steamer to intimidate you couldn't break your bad habit of lying, you can go to prison and reform properly. I watched the small mass beneath the white cloth, my child, fall into the drain/sewer. No! I screamed hysterically, rushing forward, but I could only watch it pass through my hands, plop into the foul-smelling drain/sewer, and disappear into the whirlpool. I wailed, feeling only absurdity and despair. My body was right before his eyes, yet he still chose to believe Jessica's flimsy lies. He wouldn't even give our child's body a proper burial. This was the man I had loved for so many years, the man I had given everything to protect. Those who betray true hearts will suffer. Robert Miller, you'll regret this. Seeing no response, he roared, are you all idiots? Didn't you hear what I said? Call the police. The subordinates' faces were pale, and their fingers trembled as they pointed at the drain/sewer. Sir, that really was your wife, and your child. Even now, you still want to help her lie to me. Robert Miller turned around, pointing at him, furious. Get this straight, I am your boss. Helping that bitch won't do you any good. Any of you who dares to help her lie to me or scare Jessica will be fired. As Robert Miller spoke, he saw everyone's faces turn incredibly horrified, as if he had gone mad. Robert Miller whipped around, still angry. Sarah, where are you hiding? Even now, you're still trying to scare people? I'm really angry this time. I won't tolerate you anymore. If you don't come out and apologize, we're getting a divorce. You and that illegitimate child in your belly can go wherever you please. I watched Robert Miller's eyes slowly widen, finally turning to confusion. Because I wasn't hiding behind him trying to play tricks, as he imagined. Sarah, where are you hiding? Tell me, where was she hiding just now? Robert Miller asked his employees, frowning. Your wife. A pale-faced female employee couldn't bear it and burst into tears. She tried to say something but was pulled back by someone. She cried out, I quit. I can't work another day for a boss like you who brutally murders his wife for his mistress. After saying that, she ran off crying. Robert Miller's face was ashen. This is another one of Sarah's tricks, isn't it? Fine. Anyone LSE Sarah has bought off, get out now. The crowd scattered immediately and ran. He gritted his teeth. Sarah, you are too cruel. You know my company is still on the rise, yet you're instigating my employees to quit. Do you want to see my company face a crisis before you're happy? You're the one who did wrong, who kept lying to me and bullying Jessica. Jessica and I have tolerated you for so long, why do you have to push us to this point? He shouted, hoping that the person he imagined was hiding in the dark, watching him make a fool of himself, would come out. He still refused to admit that he had killed me. I watched him silently, feeling only pity. Did she promise you something? Whatever she promised you, I'll double it. You're making the wrong choice by following her. I'll blacklist her completely in the industry, and I'll send her to prison. You won't gain anything by following her. His most loyal secretary recovered from his shock and sighed. Mr. Miller, you've truly gone mad. I turned off the stove. It burned for a whole day and night. And what about those safety shut-off mechanisms you mentioned? After you turned the temperature up to maximum yesterday, the stove's red light came on, warning that the safety shut-off mechanisms couldn't be overridden. You were stubborn and wouldn't listen to a word we said, you wouldn't let us turn off the stove, and you locked the door. You've already killed your wife, what are you talking about now? I don't know why you were so convinced that your wife would do something to hurt you and Ms. Jessica. He pointedly looked at Jessica, whose triumphant smile was almost impossible to hide. Ask yourself, with your wife's abilities back then, she gave up a higher-paying executive position at a large company for you, joined this nearly bankrupt business of ours, and later, to secure investment for you, she drank until she collapsed from exhaustion, requiring hospitalization multiple times. Even now, after you did things outside that were unfair to her, she still tolerated you, waiting for you to come back. She did so much for you, giving almost all of herself. Why are you so stubbornly convinced that she was always lying to you and trying to harm you and Ms. Jessica? I smiled bitterly and silently. Even his secretary knew that I had almost burned out my life for him. Robert Miller would never know that he had completely lost the person who loved him most in the world. From 15 years ago, I had loved him deeply. The first time we met was in high school. Being poor, I earned a considerable scholarship through hard work to save up for living expenses. But I didn't expect to offend the girl who was known as the school's star student and goddess. To get revenge on me, she teamed up with her friends and admirers and spread nasty rumors, claiming I had slept with the school principal and dean to get the scholarship. They photoshopped my face onto indecent images and spread them everywhere. Everyone looked at me with contempt and disgust. Some disgusting men even came up and grabbed my shoulder strap, asking how much I charged for a night. I went to the school for help and clarification, but the school blamed me in return, saying I must have done something wrong to deserve such punishment. When I was at my most desperate, I climbed onto the teaching building, ready to jump. It was Robert Miller, during lunch break, who pulled me back. He took me to confront the girl and those who had maliciously speculated about me. Because of his family background, no one dared to cross him. With his protection, I finally made it through high school safely until graduation. At that time, I asked him why he helped me, and he just smiled and said, because your eyes told me you wouldn't do anything bad like that. You're a good girl, not like they said. I couldn't bear to see you being bullied by them. Thinking of that moment, his gentle face, I sobbed uncontrollably. Back then, he believed in my goodness without questioning. But now, he chose to believe Jessica's words, believing I was vicious, also without questioning. It was simply because Jessica was more important than me. Ultimately, the one who loved more was hurt more deeply. From that moment on, I loved him and silently followed him to the same university. I had only intended to watch over him from afar, but to my surprise, in the 5th year after my graduation, his parents were in a car accident, and the company they left behind went bankrupt overnight. The ambitious man fell into the depths overnight, and even Jessica canceled their engagement and married quickly with another rich second-generation man. Fearing he might do something reckless, I liquidated all her assets, took out all my savings, leaving just enough for a train ticket, and ran to his city without hesitation, joining his company. I injected all the money I had into it, and the company finally came back to life. He smiled and hugged me at a corporate event, thanking me for joining. He said that without my help and that of the kind person who injected capital, the company might not have made it. I don't know who helped me out, who wired the funds. If I find out who it was, I will definitely repay them. At that moment, my heart began to pound madly. How I wanted to tell him that I was that person, that I wanted to stay with him forever, and ask if he could give me a chance. But the next second, Jessica, just like now, cried and rushed into his arms from outside. The words left unspoken would never have a chance to be said. The next day, they reconciled, and I silently returned to being just a friend. If it hadn't been for that incident a year ago, perhaps I would have just silently watched over him my whole life. Perhaps, if things had gone that way, my child and I wouldn't have ended up like this. I looked at Robert Miller, unable to speak, and could only punch his secretary's face in a fit of rage. I was so good to why. Oh, you, and even you were bought off by her to lie to me. She had you say all this to make me let her go, right? Tell her that's impossible. I will never forgive her for hurting Jessica and lying to me. Tell Sarah I want to see her kneel and apologize to Jessica by the end of today. If she doesn't show up by 12 o'clock, we're getting a divorce. He punched the secretary again and again. The secretary couldn't fight back and could only shout, "Mr. Miller, clear your head. What I'm saying is the truth. Your wife is dead, you just need to take one look and you'll know." I don't believe it. Robert Miller muttered to himself, then turned and pulled Jessica away. She's lied to me so many times, this must be another one of her schemes to trick me. I won't believe her. I gave a silent, bitter smile. In love, the one who is loved is always fearless. Just like me and him, no matter how much he hurt me, I always thought about giving him another chance. Just like him and Jessica, even though Jessica abandoned him twice and told countless lies, he could believe her without questioning. It's good that I'm dead now. I no longer have to wait for someone who will never love me to turn around. Robert Miller left with Jessica. As if to suppress the unease in his heart, he actually initiated a conversation with Jessica about divorcing me and marrying her. Sarah is really too ignorant. Did she have to make a scene like this? It seems this lesson wasn't enough. This time, I must divorce her so she understands what fear is. Let's go take wedding photos today. He pulled Jessica, booked the entire bridal shop, changed into a wedding dress, and then repeatedly forced himself on her in the fitting room, as if only this could erase everything that had happened during the day. Jessica accommodated him, her face full of surprise and greed. Are you really willing to divorce Sarah and marry me? That's wonderful. I'm so happy. Robert Miller said, as if seeking confirmation. Jessica, you sacrificed one marriage by marrying that guy David to help me get investment back then. I can't treat you unfairly again. Jessica, after my parents passed away and the company went bankrupt, the funds that were wired into my account at that crucial moment, that was really money you exchanged for with your marriage, wasn't it? He stopped his movements, looking at her expectantly. Jessica's face stiffened. Of course it was. Why else would I have married quickly a man I had never met? Robert Miller sighed with relief, his expression becoming even more affectionate. Yes, in this world, only you would love me so much, love me enough to sacrifice everything for me. Jessica, believe me, I will love you with my life. Hearing their conversation, I felt struck by lightning. So that was it, that was it. So this was the reason Robert Miller tolerated and forgave Jessica again and again. It was so utterly absurd. I thought I would feel heartbreak, feel anger, but in the end, I just let out a sigh. Was all of this truly just Jessica's impersonation? How could Robert Miller's biased indulgence not have played a part? To express his sincerity, Robert Miller posted an update on the company's social media account. It was a photo of him and Jessica in wedding attire, with the caption, "It was always you." Robert Miller finished quickly and took Jessica home. Jessica still wanted to cling to him, but he persuaded her to go back to the bedroom. He, however, stood on the balcony of his study, smoking cigarette after cigarette. He kept flipping through his phone, seemingly wanting to talk to someone. Damn it, where did Sarah disappear to? I can't find her anywhere. He frustratingly ran his hand through his hair. I'm getting married tomorrow, she won't try to cause trouble, will she? She definitely will. She's so jealous of Jessica, she won't miss the chance to ruin Jessica's happiest moment. I curved my lips into a smile. Robert Miller, don't worry, I can't do that anymore. If she comes to cause trouble, it's because she still cares about me. Robert Miller, who had been angry, suddenly let out a laugh, as if he had thought of something. This happening is also because I haven't been paying attention to her feelings recently, only focusing on getting even for Jessica. If she comes to cause trouble tomorrow, I won't hold it against her. Perhaps I should teach her a lesson in a gentler way. I was shocked, finding it absurd. Was he still thinking about how to tame me? Just then, the doorbell was rung frantically, piercingly loud in the night. Robert Miller seemed to have expected it, even walking over slowly with a smile. Finally can't sit still? Sarah, finally willing to show yourself? He opened the door, only to see his secretary standing outside. Mr. Miller, here is the report. He threw the document onto Robert Miller. Take a good look yourself at who you threw into the slop bin today. The secretary's eyes were full of sorrow. Do you know how heartbreaking it was to read the report results? The entire industrial steamer was full of bloody fingernail marks. In that state of terrible pain, she almost broke her fingers trying to open the industrial steamer to give her child a chance to live, but couldn't because you had locked it with a chain. Do you know how pitiful that child was? He was already fully formed, yet didn't even get a chance to open his eyes and see this world before being steamed to death by his own father. Robert Miller, you killed your own wife and child. You're not a human being. You're an animal. The secretary couldn't control his grief and indignation and grabbed Robert Miller by the collar. She sacrificed so much for you, yet you never cherished her and drove her to this. If she hadn't liquidated all her assets and injected funds into the company back then, do you think you would have had the chance to become Mr. Miller? She did so much for you and the company, only to meet such an end. Robert Miller, you betrayed true feelings, and you'll suffer a terrible death. What are you talking about? Robert Miller still managed a cold laugh. You're teaming up with her to lie to me again. That investment back then was clearly money Jessica got by marrying David. The secretary punched him in the face. Even now, you still won't acknowledge how good she was to you? The sender was named Andy. For so many years. How many international deals did Sarah negotiate with you? Every time she introduced herself as Andy. For so many years, did you never notice it even once? You never noticed because your eyes were only on Jessica. The secretary showed a mocking smile. Mr. Miller, you loved Jessica so much that you didn't hesitate to kill your own child and wife for her. But is Jessica really worth your love? Just look at what's trending online right now. Robert Miller stiffly took out his phone. Everyone was frantically reposting his wedding photo update. Poor guy, ended up with a toxic woman. Does he not know the scandal surrounding this woman is hundreds of pages long? Let me explain what this woman did for the passers-by. To climb the social ladder, she slept with a string of rich guys, then finally trapped David with a pregnancy, but David found out the baby wasn't his, forced her to get an abortion, and divorced her. Later, I heard she tried the same trick again with another guy, but his wife found out, dragged her to the hospital for a forced abortion, and then she disappeared from the scene. I was wondering where she went. Turns out she found someone else to fall for it. But I thought Mr. Miller had a wife? What a scumbag. Robert Miller's expression grew more and more serious, finally turning instantly pale. On the stairs, Jessica suddenly ran down, crying, Robert, look at Sarah, she's trying to get revenge on me by spreading rumors about me online. I can't live like this. Robert Miller no longer felt sorry for her. He simply asked softly, is what they're saying true or false? Tell me the truth. Of course it's false. Jessica was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. Her face changed, and she screamed, you suspect me. I've done so much for you, and you suspect me. Robert Miller suddenly laughed mockingly. You did everything for me? Wasn't it Sarah who did everything for me, and you came to claim her credit? From the investment that saved my company, to that one night stand I had, which one of those things was true? He seemed to realize something, suddenly unstable, staggering a few steps and clutching his chest. You said Sarah pushed you, and that's why you lost the baby. Jessica, did Sarah really push you? Was that baby really mine? Jessica's face changed, and with a shriek, she tried to run out. But Robert Miller grabbed her and locked her in the basement. He gave a bitter smile and pleaded with the secretary, I was wrong, I misunderstood Sarah. Can you tell me where Sarah is? Tears actually fell from his eyes. As long as you tell me Sarah's whereabouts, I'll give you money. I'll give you whatever you want. Give me a chance to make things right with Sarah. The secretary looked at him coldly and said, who wants your dirty money, you executioner? Robert Miller, I told you, those who betray true hearts will suffer worse than death. You've lost the person who loved you most. Now repent in endless pain. At this moment, Robert Miller finally understood that he had lost me. He knelt on the ground, his shoulders trembling uncontrollably, tears dripping onto the floor. Sarah, what have I done, Sarah? I killed the person who loved me most. I killed you. We were so close to happiness, and I ruined everything. Sarah, wait for me, I'll be with you soon. But I spoke coldly, don't come looking for me, Robert Miller. I'm afraid you'll dirty the path ahead of me. What was the point of repenting now? Repentance couldn't bring back my life or my child's life. He dragged T. He terrified Jessica out of the basement, ignoring her pleas and tearful confessions, just smiling and saying, I promise to marry you, I can't go back on my word. In Jessica's panicked eyes, he helped her into a white wedding dress and carried her onto the bed. Jessica's teeth were chattering, but she still managed a forced smile. It wasn't until Robert Miller tied her to the bed that she realized something was wrong and began to struggle frantically, begging for mercy, crying hysterically. Clearly, everything was done by Sarah, but you claimed the credit. If you hadn't appeared again and again, Sarah and I wouldn't be separated by life and death now, and I wouldn't have lost the one I love forever. However much pain Sarah felt then, I want you to feel it too. Jessica kept begging, calling herself terrible things, an animal, but she couldn't move Robert Miller at all. He poured gasoline on the room with a blank expression and lit it. Hearing Jessica's screams, he finally leaned back in a corner, relieved. Sarah, will I see you soon? If I see you again, I must tell you, I'm sorry, I love you. He stared fixedly at the ceiling until the flames completely engulfed him. He never saw a trace of me. Despair was the final expression on his face. I stood in the corner, watching him, and spoke my final words with resolution. Robert Miller, we should never meet again in the next life. A white light appeared before my eyes, and a tiny angel in the light beckoned to me. He smiled sweetly at me. Mommy, shall we go to the next life? I want to be your child again in the next life.